Hello everyone and welcome to another mashup review. So if you're unfamiliar with mashup reviews on my channel is where I take 3 or 4 books, usually within the same genre, sometimes very different genres. Either way, they're the most 3 recent books that I've read that I want to pair together to review them all for you in one video. So I do this because I want to review more books on my channel and because I feel like it's easier for you guys to watch 3 kind of short reviews in a little bit of depth to let you know what I thought about them and whether you would like to read them or not, and maybe we'll have the same opinion or maybe not. So, as I said, I'm reviewing 3 books today. They are all YA fantasy books, so yay for the same genre. I know it's a lot easier for everyone. If you're interested in hearing my thoughts on all 3 of the books, continue to watch on. In case you want to hear my thoughts on one particular book, I will leave all the timestamps down below where you can jump to seeing one book in particular. 3 books I am talking about today are Girls at Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. I hopefully pronounced that right. I apologize if I didn't. Carry On by Rainbow Rowell, and 4 Dead Queens by Astrid Solskjaer. So we got a little bit of a mixture here. Yes, they are all YA fantasy, but these 2 are very recent releases. Like this one came out a few months ago. This one is actually coming out like in a couple of weeks, honestly, I think. This one came out a couple years ago, so we got a little bit of a difference here. So the first book I would like to talk about today is Girls at Paper and Fire by Natasha Nyan. I'm sorry if I pronounced that wrong. I'm really sorry. This is the first book in a brand new series. Don't know how many books it is going to be, whether it's going to be a trilogy, a duology, a series. I am not sure. Before I even get into letting you know what this book is about and my feelings, I do want to tell you there's a lot of trigger warnings with this book. The book at the core of it is really about sexual abuse, rape. There's animal brutality in it. There's a lot of just forcefulness, a lot of men taking things from women, whether it be their body, their mind, things like that. It's a very hard book to read, I'm not gonna lie to you, but this one's a lot of darker themes and a lot of, scary things. So just know, forewarned, before even going into reading this, in case you're interested, there is a lot of sexual scenes, rape, and things like that, just so you're forewarned. So in this world, we have different castes. So we have the paper caste, which are humans, and they are kind of at the bottom of the caste. They don't have any sort of magical powers or anything like that, so they're treated not the best if you're just full-on human. Then you have the steel class, which are humans endowed with partial animal demon qualities, both in physicality and abilities. So they are humans with a little bit of demon in them. And then we have moon caste, who are fully demon, whose animal demon features such as horns, wings, fur on human void, and complete demon capabilities. So we have this world where we have these 3 castes. And Lee, hopefully I pronounced that right, Lee, it's spelled L-E-I, so you can let me know how to pronounce that. I apologize if I pronounce it wrong this entire time, please forgive me. But she is a human. She's from the paper caste. She is working with her dad at this shop, and then one day the king's men come in and they kind of whisk her away to the palace because every single year he picks a whole cast of human girls, I think around 10 of them, to be his concubines for the year. And so Lee is picked as one of them, and she's whisked off to the palace, and there ensues a lot of really hard things for her. That's when a lot of the rape comes in, a lot of physical abuse, a lot of sexual abuse, a lot of power abuse. So Lee is just trying to figure out her place in the palace, trying to figure out how the dynamics of the system works, of how she's just a concubine, but that she meets these amazing friends, and then she also falls in love. This does feature a female-female romance, in case you didn't know, and I really enjoyed it. So overall, I did really enjoy this book. Like I said, it's a very dark book. It is a very hard book to read. There was never a point of it where it was like happy-go-lucky. Each chapter had its own difficulties, with Lee trying to figure out like when the Demon King was going to call her for her being her turn, about her virginity, about just sexual abuse. It's just a hard book to read about, and at the core of it, I think, is about how a lot of men treat women poorly. They think women are just nothing. They don't have a mind to value. They don't have a body to value. They're just toys, if you will. And I really love the writing style of this book because it talked about so many of those things, and how women are strong, women are powerful, and we are not objects to men or people at all. So I love the whole author's voice of this. I also just love the culture of this as well. It was just really, I really liked it. Usually with fantasy books, I have a hard time getting into the world because of so many fantastical elements. We're in a different world, we're in a different land, there's different people, but this one I found the writing style to be very easily to get immersed to. There was no problems I had with it getting really into it. I immediately picked up within her writing style from page 1. So I really enjoyed the romance as well. I will say it was kind of insta-lovey, but I mean, as a person that doesn't hate insta love, there's sometimes I don't like it, sometimes I do. I enjoyed it, but I thought the romance was sweet. I thought the action was great. I love the whole message of this book, so I really enjoyed it. I would give it a 4 out of 5 in case you're curious. I have changed my rating system this year to no half stars or no 2.5s. I'm going to either round up or round down of what I think about books. So overall, I would say, if I was like really honest, I would give it a 4.25, but I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. So I really enjoyed it. There was a couple things I didn't love. I felt like the plot kind of meandered a little bit. There was in the middle of the book, not a lot happened. I wanted to get started a revolution to take down this demon king, and I wanted a little bit more. I also wanted a little bit more romance. Like, I felt like it was insta love, which it definitely was, but I wanted to be built upon more, like I have a steadier foundation, if you will. But other than those two things, I really enjoyed it, and I would definitely recommend it. Just know, be in the right mindset to read this book because it's a very heavy and dark one at that. Moving into the second book I want to talk about is Carry On by Rainbow Rowell. I have been meaning to read this forever. I have read every single one of Rainbow Rowell books, whether it be her adult ones or her YA ones, and I've really enjoyed them all. So I don't know why I was so hesitant to read this one, other than the fact that it was like my last Rainbow Rowell book on my shelf, so maybe I was kind of like savoring it, like I'll save it for when I really need it. But I'm glad I picked it up because I adored it. I'm not surprised at all because everyone loves Carry On. So Carry On is set in the world of Fangirl, if you will. So if you have read one of her other books, Fangirl follows this character named Kath. As you can see, she's writing on her laptop. Kath is a big fan fiction writer. She writes Simon Snow fan fiction, and Simon Snow is kind of like a take on Harry Potter. In this fan fiction she writes about Simon Snow and Baz, and those are the two main characters within the Simon Snow like kind of world. And Carry On is a book all about Simon Snow and Baz. So it's kind of like she wrote a fictional world within a fictional world, and then she wrote a book like within a fictional world within, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of odd to explain, but it's really well worth it. In case you really want to read Carry On and you haven't read Fangirl, I think you can still read it. Just know like what it was based upon and things like that. I would recommend reading Fangirl because it's just really cute and adorable, and it gives you a little bit of a backstory about Simon Snow, I would say. Like I said, this follows Simon Snow, and Simon Snow is definitely Harry Potter-esque. You can very clearly tell that, but I'd say before even going into it, just know that yes, it's based on Harry Potter, but it's not Harry Potter. It's very different. It's very loosely based. It's giving nods to Harry Potter every now and then, but it's its own thing, you know? It's also, the magic system's really not well built upon. There's, you know, these weird spells that, you know, Harry Potter has Wingardium Leviosa and things like that, like their own language, but their spells within here are like, some like it hot. Like they say like movie sayings or just like classic sayings, and that's the spell. So some like it hot would be like to heat up something. Like there's nothing to see here would be for people like to not look upon you or things like that. So it's kind of like that. It's got that weird magic system. So Simon Snow is the chosen one, and he basically is going to the school. I forget what it's called. I think it's called Watford. He goes to every single year. He has a best friend in Penny, and he has this roommate Baz that he hates and he thinks is a vampire. It's all about his year there at Watford and him struggling with the chosen one and also falling in love with Baz. So I really loved it. I'm sorry that was a very long explanation, but that's how it is. I loved it. I thought it was cute. It is a fantasy read, but it does not read like a fantasy at all. I would say it's a contemporary book with hints of fantasy within it. I smiled throughout reading this entire book. I thought it was just adorable. I smiled when I got really giddy and excited when we got to certain scenes with Simon and Baz. I love their relationship, how it's very hate to love. That's one of my favorite tropes to read about, and I just loved reading both from Simon and Baz's perspective, and the fact that it's a vampire, like, Rainbow Rowell knows my heart because I love vampires, and they've been needing to make a comeback for years. She wrote this a couple years ago, but they're just now coming back. Thank you, Rainbow, for realizing we need more vampires, because we do. But overall, I loved it. I gave it a 5 out of 5. I was obsessed with it. It did take me a little bit to get into. By a little bit, I meant like by 30 pages. I really was invested into it, but this book is broken down in parts. I want to say there's like 4 parts in it. The first part is very slow, but when you get the second part, things start happening and things like that. So to sum up, I would say this is very Harry Potter-esque, loosely, but just a fun, fantastical time that I just loved and was so freaking romantic, so swoon-worthy, had such great humor in it. I really enjoyed it. It was great. And the last book that I want to mention in this video is Four Dead Queens by Astrid Schulte. I actually buddy read this with my friend Amy, who's on Instagram, A Court of Crowns and Quills, and we both had pretty much the same feelings about it. It comes out in February, so I believe next month. I don't know when exactly in February, so please forgive me on that. Hopefully it's the beginning of February, but this is a standalone YA fantasy book, which I think is great because I don't read a ton of YA fantasy books. Usually when YA fantasy comes out, it's either going to be a duology, a trilogy, or a series, which are great, but sometimes there's just, you get into a mountain of them and it just never ends. So I'm happy this is a standalone. It's kind of a one and done story, so I appreciate it for that matter. This is about this world called Daras. Hopefully I pronounced that right, I apologize. And they are split up into 4 quadrants, hence Quadaras, I don't know how you say it. And each quadrant has a queen, and each of these quadrants have different values. I can't tell you exactly what they are, like Ionia, and they really structure like scientific breakthroughs, things like that, everybody having their place. Then we have other quadrants called I forget what they're called, this doesn't say on the back, but there's one quadrant that really focuses on just like art and fashion and things like that. Another quadrant that really focuses on like packaging and just kind of earthy things, and another quadrant that really values, I forget, it gives me Divergent feels, honestly, because Divergent was divided up into different sectors like Abnegation and Dauntless, things like that. It gives me kind of Divergent feels, but either way, we have these 4 queens that rule these quadrants. So what happens is we follow a character that's not even a queen named Carolee, and she is kind of a thief, and she steals this package one day, and she realizes that it has information about all 4 of these queens dying. So she and this other guy named Varen kind of team up to try to figure out who killed the queens, what conspiracy is behind it, and things like that. So I enjoyed this book. Do I think it was revolutionary or like it was breakthrough? Not particularly. I will say the writing for a debut novel, I should have mentioned that also as well. That is a debut novel in case you're interested. I do feel like the writing style was really good for a debut novel. I couldn't tell that it was a debut novel. If you wouldn't have told me, I wouldn't have known. But I didn't love it. Like, the plot was fast paced. I'll give it that. There was no point in this book where I was like, this is dragging on, this is too slow, but I found it to be very predictable. Like, it took a lot of twists and turns, which I appreciated, but I could see where a lot of those twists and turns were going. Also, there's a romance between our 2 main characters, which I feel like we saw coming, but I really don't feel was relevant. Like, I would have been much better off with having no romance at all. Sometimes I feel like fantasy books just throw on romance for the sake of having romance, because every fantasy book should have romance, but I don't find that the case at all. If it's a good romance and it should be in there, great. Does this one need to have romance? I don't really think so. So overall, if I would give this a rating, I would give it a 3 out of 5. I would call it just an average, just decent fantasy. I don't want to sound like I'm slamming it at all. I had a good time reading it. I could predict how it ended and things like that. I also feel like it ended too cookie cutter in my opinion, honestly, but I appreciate the fact that the writing style is really good. And it's a standalone. I love that. If you're like really involved in fantasy, maybe pick this one up. Maybe not. If you're like, you're really hesitant with fantasy, I would just call it like a good 3 out of 5. Like, it was okay. I don't want to sound harsh, but I want to be a little bit more realistic with my rating system. So there you have it. Those are my thoughts and opinions on these 3 books right here. If you have read any of these, please let me know your thoughts and opinions. If we shared the same ones or if we have different ones, I would love to hear them. I hope you guys enjoy this video, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.